Welcome to Proven and Probable. Today we're going to focus on a gold exploration company located in Saskatchewan, Canada, which has 6 projects strategically located along the Trans Hudson Corridor, which is just an absolute wonderful environment for discoveries. Before we begin, as always, I would appreciate if you click the subscribe button and click the bell. Now, on to today's interview. Joining us for a conversation is Tim Termuende of Taiga Gold. Mr. Termuende, welcome to the show, sir.
Very good to be here, Maurice. It's the first time for me, and I'm excited to tell our story.
All right. Well, glad to have you on the program, sir, to share the value proposition before us in Taiga Gold. We have lots of ground to cover today. Before we begin, Mr. Termuende, please introduce us to Taiga Gold and what is the unique opportunity the company presents to the market.
Taiga Gold is a new company. It's only been around about 2 years. Our flagship property is the Fisher property located in Saskatchewan. All our projects are located in Saskatchewan. And we feel that due to the nature of Saskatchewan, it's very underexplored, yet very high geological potential. We think we have a good chance to enhance shareholder value.
To truly appreciate the opportunity before us, I believe it is paramount to understand the genesis of Taiga Gold, which is a spin-out of Eagle Plains that has a lineage of rewarding shareholders with multi-baggers. Mr. Termuende, share with us the history of Taiga Gold and what is the relationship with Eagle Plains?
Okay, it actually goes back almost 30 years. Eagle Plains was founded by my father and I in 1992 and listed on what was then the Alberta Stock Exchange in 1995. So we've been around as a public company, Eagle Plains as a public company for over 25 years. Eagle Plains is a prospect generator. So we have a basket of projects that we work on a regular basis. We do constant research and acquisitions. And what we do is when we get a project that sort of takes a life of its own or sort of rises above all the rest of the projects, we find that the rest of the projects kind of get eclipsed or they sit in the shadow of this flagship property that's sort of been developed by us or by a partner, with a partner. And so what we do about every 3 or 4 years is spin out that project into a separate company and basically dividend our shareholders shares in this new company. So it's an interesting and kind of a different approach because we're taking a perfectly healthy company with a great project and getting rid of it. But we transfer that benefit directly to our shareholders. We've done that a few times over the years through Eagle Plains. Our most successful spin-out was Copper Canyon Resources, which in 2011 was taken out in a hostile turn-friendly merger with NovaGold Resources, and our shareholders benefited about $65 million on that transaction. So we've done it in the past. We found when we were working on Fisher and got a good deal with our partners on Fisher, that the same thing was happening. The Fisher project was clearly rising above all the rest. So we said, okay, now it's time. We spun out Fisher into a new company called Taiga. We also took a number of projects that were in the Fisher area and put them in Taiga. So it was basically a way of directly benefiting our shareholders. In the meantime, Eagle Plains keeps doing what it's doing. We are constantly acquiring projects, constantly working on them, waiting for the next one to rise above.
From a 30,000-foot level, take us to northern Saskatchewan, where the company has strategically acquired 6 projects located along the Trans Hudson Corridor, which is just an absolute wonderful environment for discoveries. For those of us that are not familiar with the Trans Hudson Corridor, please tell us about the region and why it is the focus of your project portfolio.
Yeah, it basically the geology of the Trans Hudson Corridor. It's actually an orogenic belt that has very similar rocks to other belts of this type in other places in Canada, namely the Red Lake District in Ontario and the Abitibi Belt in Quebec. What's different about the Trans Hudson Corridor is that it's had very, very little exploration over the years. I think if you tally up 2018, for example, in Quebec, there was almost $500 million in mineral exploration. In Ontario, almost $600 million, yet just over $150 million in Saskatchewan, in the same kind of prospective rocks. So that belt of rocks hosts a number of gold mines, despite its relative lack of exploration, hosts the MacLellan Gold Mine, the Snow Lake Gold Mine, the Seabee Gold Mine, which we are very closely associated with. And the biggest in that package is the Homestake Gold Mine located in South Dakota. It's within that same belt. The Homestake mine is over 40 million ounces and was one of the biggest gold deposits in North America. So what's also interesting about the Trans Hudson Corridor is most of it is undercover. Once you get north of South Dakota, you get into grasslands that extend all the way up into central Saskatchewan. So it is only when you come out of the prairie fields of Saskatchewan that the Trans Hudson rocks become exposed again. And in areas that have had exploration, which are still relatively few in this area, there has been fantastic discoveries made. And we plan on being involved in the next one with any luck.
Closing in at the 10,000-foot level, take us through Taiga's project portfolio, beginning with your flagship Fisher project, which in my opinion is in the right place at the right time. Sir, please acquaint us with the Fisher project and the potential before us.
All right. Yeah, the Fisher project, the history of Fisher goes back actually to 2012. Eagle Plains was doing what it does, doing our research, and we'd been notified by the Saskatchewan government, which is quite progressive right now, that they were going to a map staking system, which means you don't have to go out there with field crews in helicopters or float planes and cut down trees and flag lines, and it's all very expensive. Map staking is a much more cost-effective way to acquire tenure, and it's certainty of tenure too. The first people in to stake online get the ground. So we basically knew, they gave us a date when map staking was coming online. We basically were planning for it for a couple months ahead. 1 month before the staking date, we locked a couple geologists in the basement and told them to research everything you could see in Saskatchewan, go through all the old reports, find an area that we want to stake on opening day. And they came up with the area just south of the Santoy deposit as a number one priority staking target. So on opening day, we were ready for it. We staked it. We were successful in acquiring the ground we wanted. And it turned out that our property boundary butted right up against Claude Resources, who at the time owned the Seabee and Santoy deposits. We were able to stake within 1.5 kilometers of the actual decline at the Santoy. So we were very, very happy with that, and we worked on that property for a couple of years with Eagle Plains. And then in 2015, Silver Standard Resources took over Claude Resources on a all-stock deal that was $350 million. But what Silver Standard was after was basically the Seabee mill, the Santoy deposit, and the ground around it and in between it as an exploration project. It wasn't long after the ink dried on the deal with between Silver Standard and Claude that we were in negotiations with Silver Standard on our Fisher property. They really wanted our Fisher ground. They made it very clear when we were negotiating, and they've been on the property ever since. So we've had great partners in Silver Standard. They changed their name to SSR Mining a couple of years ago, so now it's SSR. But they have been aggressively exploring the Fisher property now for 4 years. They've spent over $10 million exploring the property. We're very, very bullish on that. We've also got other projects in the area that have a lot of geological similarity to that. But the Fisher is clearly the flagship property. And our hope in the end is that SSR will have exploration success enough to warrant taking out Taiga as a whole. And that's sort of what we've planned all along. That's normally what we plan with our spinouts. They're built to be bought, and we hope that Taiga is one of those in a chain of them.
Yeah, speaking of SSR, there's a red line that begins on their property and extends to the middle of the Fisher project. What does that red line represent, and how may this significantly increase the value of the Fisher project?
Yeah, the red line is actually the Santoy Shear. It was discovered in the mid-90s. They were mining at the Seabee deposit, which is directly beneath or around the Seabee mill. So they were mining the Seabee. They were also exploring the rest of the property, and there was a big fire year, I think in 1995 or 1994, and what these fires did is exposed a whole bunch of outcrop that normally you wouldn't get to without trenching and other expensive procedures there. But the forest fires exposed mineralization that in the end turned out to be a deposit, and it's right along the Santoy Shear. So they are mining the Santoy Shear. It runs roughly north-south, and since SSR has started working on the Fisher property, they've actually traced the shear through the entire length of our property. Roughly 25 kilometers now of Santoy Shear goes through the Fisher property. And it's that shear that is the focus of exploration for SSR in the past and going forward in the future.
If we're looking at the map here, we move to the right of the Santoy Shear, there's a black dotted line coming through, and it's a fault. Can you tell us about that fault and why all of your projects are strategically aligned along that fault?
Yeah, that fault's called the Tabbenor Fault structure, and it's a major regional structure. It goes over 1,000 kilometers. In fact, the Tabbenor structure does reach all the way down into South Dakota, and exploration in the past, now so far in our neck of the woods anyway, has shown that the Tabbenor seems to be sort of a trunk or a root structure, and it splays off the Tabbenor that are the focus of mineralization. So that the Santoy Shear is a splay off the Tabbenor, the Seabee Shear is a splay off the Tabbenor. So all of our projects in that area, the Fisher, the Chico, the Orchid, the Leland, are focused on splays or shears that we believe are linked to the Tabbenor structure, and all have sort of the same genetic model as what's being mined now at the Santoy and historically mined at the Seabee deposit.
And going back to the Fisher project, can you provide us an overview of the genetic model that has Taiga Gold basically in full confidence that this may be the next multi-bagger spin-out from Eagle Plains?
Yeah, well, we see that the Santoy Shear is essentially the structure that is being mined. We now know, we didn't know when we staked it. We hoped that it continued through our property. It's now been confirmed by mapping and exploration by SSR and drilling to some point that this shear is present. It is clearly a very strong exploration target. And that's basically the focus of our exploration at Fisher and their exploration as well.
You know, the Fisher project is a brownfields play that has some neighbors that are heavily invested in the region who have also had some drill success near your property. Who are they and how do they fit into the narrative?
Yeah, the neighbors are SSR, and they are basically exploring at their risk and their cost to earn an interest in our property. They have been working away at it for years now, since 2015. But the last year, this year in early 2000, or 2020, I mean, they did a drill program that targeted 6 different areas of the Fisher property. They were only able to get to 4 of the 6 target areas, and in 3 of the 4 target areas, they intercepted very, very significant mineralization. So 3 out of 4 targets hit in the last program. The other 2 targets they have not been able to get to yet for various reasons. One is COVID, another is there were poor freeze-up conditions last winter. So those targets remain high priority targets that we understand that SSR will be tackling in the near future. And again, for us, and it's very important to remember, exploration is a very risky business. You do have to kiss a lot of frogs, trust me, in this business. Having another company spending that much money on our property that is absolutely non-dilutive to us from a capital standpoint is as good as it gets for us.
And leaving the Fisher, Taiga has 4 more, make that 5 more as of this week, projects in their property portfolio. What would you like to share with us about them, respectively?
Yeah, each one of our other projects has a genetic similarity or a geologic similarity. They are all structurally hosted gold targets. All of the targets have high-grade mineralization documented in the past. There has been very little exploration in Saskatchewan, so we feel that a lot of these targets have very good potential, and ultimately we would like to think that they may be attractive to SSR in the future as well. So we are working these projects at various stages right now, but yeah, they all share the same target model in that they are structurally related gold targets.
What type of activity is actively being conducted on your projects at the moment?
Fisher is going to see more exploration in Q4. SSR is planning a 3,000 meter program on Fisher. We also have an option partner in our Leland project, and they are planning a program this year. The Chico property is currently it's at a standstill right now, but that is optioned to Aben Resources, so we expect more work in the future on that. 2 other projects we have, the Orchid and the recently acquired Mary Lake property. We are planning programs on those this year. We just haven't got firm budgets in place yet, but we will be on those projects to see what we have.
Let's discuss some important topics germane to the projects. Are your projects 100% owned, or do they have any reversionary interests?
All of our projects are 100% owned. A couple of them are optioned now. As I mentioned, the Fisher's optioned, the Leland's optioned, and the Chico is optioned off. All of the projects that we do own 100%, there maybe are one or two claims within these packages that have a small underlying NSR, or 1 or 2% NSR. Those are claims that we had to purchase from another prospector or do deals with other staking groups to consolidate these projects. But overall, yes, 100% interest and 100% control at this point.
Always good to hear. We're going to get into some numbers later in this discussion, but from a capital expenditure standpoint, how is the infrastructure on your projects?
In Saskatchewan, it's very good, actually. A lot of the projects are float plane access, which makes it quite easy to get around. A couple of them have road access. The entire Seabee mine operation, the Seabee Gold operation, has never had a year-round road. They have a winter road that they do their main hauling in, but over the other months of the year that the winter road isn't active, everything is done by air, either by float plane or by wheels. Occasionally we have helicopters used, but for the most part it's float plane access. Most of these projects also do have winter road access, so if we get to the point where we have a major drill program or major camps to build or whatever, we would certainly use the winter road access option, which is actually quite cost effective from an exploration point of view.
What is your relationship with the First Nations?
Overall, I would say it's excellent. Most of the First Nations in northern Saskatchewan are very pro-development. The road isn't without speed bumps. There is a group around one of our projects, around the Chico project, that there's a small group within that community that is opposed to development in that area, and that's a route we're working on right now. We've been doing a lot of consultation. We feel we're making progress. We'd like to think that's getting better and better. I'd say overall our relations are excellent.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but I do want to remind you, everything we're covering today with Mr. Termuende you can find in the description box below. And if you like our content, I would appreciate if you give us a thumbs up. Now, back to the interview. Are you fully permitted?
Depends on the project. The Fisher is fully permitted. The Leland is permitted. The Orchid we're waiting for a permit on. Most of our work at this stage is more grassroots. So for us to go in and do geophysical work or geological mapping or prospecting or soil sampling, the permitting issues are essentially minimal or non-existent. But yes, for the bigger programs that are planning drill programs, yes, they're permitted.
Is the ultimate goal for Taiga Gold to build a mine or discovery and then sell the projects?
No, we are not mine builders. We're not mining engineers. We're geological explorationists. Our goal is to find an economic deposit, prove it as an economic deposit, and then sell it. It's a totally different skill set for people to actually go into mining. I've seen it happen a lot of times that exploration companies think they can become miners, and it really usually doesn't end very well.
Yeah, it certainly is a different skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And we're not kidding ourselves about that. We're very excited about making discoveries, but also monetizing them through a sale to actual miners that know what they're doing.
We've discussed the good. Let's address the bad. What can go wrong, and what are your action plans to mitigate that wrong?
Well, I guess the world's seeing it right now. COVID-19 has been a challenge for us. It's actually slowed down exploration at Fisher because in mid-March they shut down the Seabee mine. SSR shut down the Seabee mine due to COVID restrictions, and because the Seabee mine is the hub of exploration for SSR in that area, a lot of the work that they were planning to do on Fisher this summer got deferred until the mine reopens. They just announced a few days ago that the mine is reopening now, so it's getting back to business as usual. But we're also finding that a lot of our projects are in or around First Nations communities, and a lot of those communities have locked right down. So, much of our work when we go in would be off the float plane docks in the middle of one of these communities. Now that's very difficult to do. So we've had to sort of change our logistics to, we'll fly in off a lake along the road kind of thing. It adds a little complexity and a little bit of cost. But that's certainly something that can go wrong. We could see the market fall apart again. We spent the last 9 years sort of struggling to keep everything going and keep all our people employed and to keep our offices open. I don't think we're coming out of this bull market anytime soon, but it's certainly something that we have to be aware of and we have to plan for in the event that it happens.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears, let's discuss the people responsible for increasing shareholder value. Mr. Termuende, please introduce us to your board of directors.
Sure. Myself, I'm the president and CEO. I'll just say overall, too, that our board is of 6 directors we have on our board. 4 of them are geologists or geological technicians or geographical technicians. We also have a chartered accountant and a lawyer on our board. So we've got a very geologically strong board with enough horsepower on the legal and financial side to get everything done. So yeah, myself, I'm a 35-year veteran of mineral exploration. Started with Cominco when I got out of University of British Columbia in the late 80s. Chuck Downey's our VP exploration. He and I actually worked together with Cominco back in the 80s. So we've worked together for just about 30 years, or over 30 years actually. Chuck's the VPX. We've also got Paul Reynolds as a director. He's a geologist as well. Again, 34 years exploration experience, and also experience corporately. He's had a couple of successes on the corporate side, as well as successes on the exploration side. We've also got Jesse Campbell as our COO. Jesse actually runs Terralogic Exploration, a consulting service that's owned by Eagle Plains. Jesse's worked with us for 20-some years. Also, Glenn Duduque is our CFO. He's an accountant by trade. I've worked with Glenn since the mid-90s, and also Darren Faw is our corporate counsel and a director, and he's our lawyer out of Calgary. So, again, very, very skilled set of individuals with collectively 120 years, 150 years exploration experience and corporate experience on publicly traded companies.
You have a proven pedigree of success. Tell us about Tim Termuende and what makes him qualified for the task at hand.
I'd like to say I have a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. I have a geological degree, a BSc, but I've been involved with public companies for over 25 years now, and I've seen it all. I think I've seen mergers, I've seen consolidations, I've seen everything you can see. I've ridden through 3 or 4 of these cycles now, bear market, bull market cycles. I think I can recognize them now. I think I know how to take advantage of either one. For a company like us, like Taiga and Eagle Plains, which I'm president of both, we sort of see these bear market downturns as opportunities too. So, you have to be able to seize these opportunities in a bear market and make hay in the bull markets. And again, we are in a bull market now. I think everybody would agree to that. Our whole board of directors, again, with our experience, has seen those same cycles. We've been very successful in the past with Eagle Plains of delivering, great returns to our shareholders. And I think, we're basically poised to do that again.
Who is on your management team and what skill sets do they bring to Taiga Gold?
Management is Chuck Downey, essentially, and Jesse Campbell as well. We're all very seasoned exploration people. We have had a lot of experience now in primarily in Western Canada. That's where our primary operations are. We also have a couple of things going on in the Yukon and Northwest Territories, but essentially we are focused on Saskatchewan. We are getting a very, very good handle on the geology of Saskatchewan. We are getting a good handle on the politics and, again, the intricacies of working with First Nations and the political situation there, and just knowing our way around as far as infrastructure goes and logistics go. I mean, all that experience pays off over time, and for us, we feel it's paying off now.
Tell us about your technical team.
Yeah, our technical work is actually run through Terralogic, which, again, Jesse Campbell heads up Terralogic. Terralogic has a very, very strong geological capability, very high tech. Most of the employees of Terralogic are younger folks, unlike the board of Eagle Plains. We're mostly older, mid-50s and on. The average age of Terralogic workers are probably 30 to 40. And again, these people have been with Terralogic a long time. We've got a very strong, loyal group. And Jared Brown, who's our chief geologist with Terralogic, has been working in Saskatchewan for 15 maybe 20 years now. And again, he knows his way around very well. And Jared, frankly, was instrumental in us getting a lot of the projects that are now in Taiga. So yeah, I think we have a very strong technical group, and poised to move forward with that.
All right, let's get into some numbers. Please share your capital structure.
Yeah, we've got roughly 80 million shares outstanding, roughly 20 million warrants that are currently in the money right now. That is a double-edged sword. Yes, there's an overhang on these warrants, but it also will be generating a lot of cash to the company. So if these warrants get exercised, we would expect to see another $2 or $3 million come into the treasury.
Mm-hmm. How much cash and cash equivalents do you have?
We have roughly 850,000 in cash and receivables, roughly 100,000 in shares in other companies. Again, we've mentioned that we have optioned a couple of our projects. So with those option deals comes cash and shares to the company. So 900,000 to $1 million in treasury right now.
How much debt do you have?
We have zero debt.
I always love to hear that one.
Yeah.
What is your burn rate?
Our burn rate is a modest 33,000 a month. Again, we are pretty lean and mean, and everything's close to the bone.
Who are the major shareholders, and what is their level of commitment?
The largest shareholder in Taiga right now is actually Eagle Plains. When we did the spin out, we kept 19.9% of the shares of Taiga in Eagle Plains. So Eagle Plains owns 12 million shares of the 80 million shares outstanding. Other large shareholders, myself, I'm the second largest shareholder. My father is the third largest shareholder. And then we've got groups like Tech owns some shares, Nova Gold owns some shares. Essentially, it's retail based. We don't have any institutional investors. However, we actually Red Plug Capital participated in the last financing. But a lot of our shareholders, too, are long-term Eagle Plains shareholders because of the nature of the deal. When we spun out Taiga, we did it on a 1-for-2 basis. So every 2 shares of Eagle Plains got 1 share of Taiga. So most of our shareholder base are Eagle Plains shareholders who have been with us for a long time, who appreciate what we're doing, who have had the wins we've had in the past from these spin-outs we've done. So I consider those shares in fairly safe hands.
What is the float?
Given the discussion that we just had earlier, I would say there's probably 20 to 30 million shares that are in float right now. The last financing we did, a lot of people participated that I had not known before, or were not sort of part of our history. So, yeah, I would say 20 to 30 million.
Well, that's always good to hear. Are there any redundant assets on the books that we should know about?
Not really, no. Again, it's a fairly new company, only 2 years old, 2.5 years old. Everything's out there that I think would affect our share price moving forward, or our chance of success moving forward.
Are there any change of control fees? And if yes, what is the compensation?
A couple of our management contracts, myself included, has a break fee or a change of control fee. I make roughly $96,000 a year. I have a change of control of 2 years salary if that happens. 1 or 2 of the directors have a similar contract in place, but again, not an onerous amount of money if it ever came to be.
No, that certainly isn't. I'm used to hearing 7 figures or something.
No. We're
I was shocked when you just said that. Yes, okay. All right. Is management charging a consultant fee for any services?
Myself, again, I run my fees through a private contracting company, and again, that's $96,000 a year. Other directors are mainly salaried. All of the salaries are well under $100,000 a year. Most of the directors do not take any salary. Myself, Mr. Downey, and Mr. Campbell are the only ones that regularly draw a salary. So again, and that's why our burn rate is so low.
Mm-hmm. All right, sir. In closing, multi-layered question. What is the next unanswered question for Taiga Gold? When can we expect a response, and what determines success?
Good question. The next unanswered question is what lies beneath. All of our projects are grassroots greenfields projects. They all need drilling. All that drilling costs money. We have we have partners carrying the load on a couple of these projects. Again, the main one is the Fisher project, $10 million in expenditures so far. We see that to continue, certainly in the next quarter. SSR just announced a 3,000 meter program for Fisher starting in mid-September. So, it's a loaded question, but it comes down to success at the drill bit. I mean, we can't guarantee that we're going to have a deposit. We are very confident, given we have so much of the Santoy Shear on our property, very little exploration on it. The exploration that has been done is starting to yield results now. Some of the drill intercepts that we announced in May were actually if they were on the on the Seabee Gold operation property, they would be considered ore grade intercepts. So they're starting to hit those on the Fisher property. Their stated goal now is to target inferred resources. So as they sort of develop these areas that they know are starting to shine, they will focus their drilling activity on those areas. In the past, they've been sort of picking away along the Santoy Shear, looking for hotspots. They've now found 3 hotspots. They will be focusing on those while they continue to do exploration further to the south, throughout the whole property. So, we're looking forward to that.
Sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
Reading business emails just before bed, but that's an aside. What concerns me a little bit is, like I just mentioned, a lack of success at the drill bit. I don't, from what we've seen here in the last round of drilling that SSR has done in the Fisher, I see that as being unlikely right now. I am a little worried that this COVID situation will get worse. I mean, we haven't seen the second wave. We are already inconvenienced by the first wave. It has caused, again, logistical challenges for us, a little extra cost because of that. But if COVID gets much worse, we will see a lot of the areas, particularly remote areas, particularly areas that have native communities, clamping right down, and that'll make it very difficult, I think, to have meetings, to get permits, to do anything. I mean, everything's been slowed down already. If it gets worse, for us, it will in turn get worse.
Mr. Termuende, last question. What did I forget to ask?
How about why is Saskatchewan so underexplored? Because it is, given the favorable geology that is very similar to large belts elsewhere in Canada. I think that would be a good one to dwell on. And the short answer is Saskatchewan for years had a socialist government from 1944 to 2003. Over those 60 years, 40 or 50 of those years was a socialist government, and they were very great if you were a civil servant or a farmer, but not so good if you were, an entrepreneur or a resource developer in the province. For many of those years, the Saskatchewan government actually forced companies to joint venture with the government. So it was almost, bordering on a communist regime, and it really drove away investment, without a doubt. Even I talked to Mike, who's you're familiar with, Mike Lebac. He said he grew up in Saskatchewan and he had to leave in the mid '80s because there was just no work. There was nothing going on there, and so it's a symptom of mostly political reason for a lack of exploration in an extremely high potential mineral belt. And the Saskatchewan party that's in there now is very, very pro. They're a central right government. They're very, very pro development. Saskatchewan government right now actually has an incentive program for that part of northern Saskatchewan where they will refund or rebate up to 25% of drilling costs. So they have certainly shown that they are open for business. Bringing on map staking, like they did in 2012, was a very, very strong signal that they're open for business. And frankly, our experience is they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Mr. Termuende, for someone listening that wants to get more information on Taiga Gold, please share the website address.
Yeah, www.taigagold.com.
Mr. Termuende, it's been an absolute delight to speak with you today. Wishing you and Taiga Gold the absolute best, sir. Taiga Gold trades on the CSE symbol TGC and on the OTC symbol TGGDF. Taiga Gold is a sponsor of Proven and Probable, and we are proud shareholders for the virtues conveyed in today's message. Before you make your next bullion purchase, make sure you call me. I'm a licensed representative to buy and sell physical precious metals through Miles Franklin Precious Metals Investments. We have several options to expand your precious metals portfolio, from physical delivery of gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and rhodium to offshore depositories and precious metal IRAs. Give me a call at 855-505-1900, or you may email Maurice at milesfranklin.com. Finally, please subscribe to Proven and Probable for mining insights and bullion sales. Subscription is free.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.